The four Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are not just words. They are not just abstract ideas. They are the pillars of a life well lived, a life of meaning, a life of purpose. They are the compass that guides us through the stormy seas of existence, the light that illuminates our path in the darkest of nights. They are the essence of Stoicism, a philosophy that has stood the test of time, a philosophy that has shaped the lives of countless individuals throughout history. And today, we are going to dive deep into these virtues, explore their meaning, their significance, and how we can apply them in our own lives. Let us begin with wisdom. Wisdom is not just knowledge. It is not just the accumulation of facts and information. Wisdom is the ability to see the world as it truly is, to understand the nature of reality, to discern what is within our control and what is not. It is the ability to make sound judgments, to act with clarity and purpose, to navigate the complexities of life with grace and composure. Wisdom is the foundation upon which all the other virtues are built. Without wisdom, we are lost, adrift in a sea of confusion and uncertainty. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a vast forest. The trees are tall and dense, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocks out the sun. The path ahead is unclear, shrouded in shadows. You have a choice. You can either stumble blindly into the forest, hoping that you will find your way, or you can take a moment to pause, to observe, to think. You can look for signs, for clues, for anything that might guide you. You can use your reason, your intellect, your intuition to make sense of the chaos. This is wisdom. It is the ability to see the forest for the trees, to find order in the midst of chaos, to make decisions that are grounded in reality. But wisdom is not just about understanding the world. It is also about understanding ourselves. It is about knowing our strengths and our weaknesses, our desires and our fears. It is about recognizing our own limitations, our own biases, our own blind spots. It is about being honest with ourselves, about confronting the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. Wisdom is the mirror that reflects our true selves, the light that reveals our innermost thoughts and feelings. It is the key to self-awareness, to self-improvement, to self-mastery. And yet, wisdom is not something that we are born with. It is not something that we can acquire overnight. It is a lifelong journey, a process of continuous learning and growth. It requires patience, perseverance, and humility. It requires us to be open-minded, to be willing to question our assumptions, to challenge our beliefs. It requires us to seek out new experiences, to expose ourselves to different perspectives, to learn from our mistakes. Wisdom is not a destination. It is a path, a journey, a way of life. Now, let us turn our attention to courage. Courage is not just bravery. It is not just the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to face our fears, to confront our challenges, to stand up for what we believe in, even in the face of adversity. It is the strength to persevere, to endure, to keep going when everything inside us is telling us to give up. Courage is the fire that burns within us, the force that drives us forward, the power that enables us to overcome the obstacles that stand in our way. Imagine for a moment that you are standing on the edge of a cliff. The wind is howling. The waves are crashing against the rocks below. You are afraid. You are terrified. But you know that you have to jump. You know that you have to take that leap of faith. You know that there is no other way. This is courage. It is the ability to face our fears head-on, to take risks, to step into the unknown. It is the willingness to embrace uncertainty, to accept the possibility of failure, to trust in ourselves and in the process. But courage is not just about facing external challenges. It is also about facing our internal struggles. It is about confronting our own doubts, our own insecurities, our own demons. It is about being honest with ourselves, about acknowledging our weaknesses, about admitting when we are wrong. It is about having the strength to change, to grow, to evolve. Courage is the sword that cuts through our illusions, the shield that protects us from our own self-doubt. the armor that allows us to face the world with confidence and resilience. And yet courage is not something that we are born with. It is not something that we can summon at will. It is a muscle that we must exercise, a skill that we must develop. It requires practice, discipline, and determination. It requires us to step out of our comfort zones, to take risks, to push ourselves beyond our limits. It requires us to be vulnerable, to be open, to be willing to fail. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the triumph over fear. It is the realization that we are stronger than we think, that we are capable of more than we ever imagined. Now, let us explore justice. Justice is not just fairness. It is not just the absence of injustice. Justice is the ability to treat others with respect, with dignity, with compassion. It is the commitment to doing what is right, to standing up for what is just, to fighting for what is fair. Justice is the glue that holds society together, the foundation upon which trust and cooperation are built. It is the principle that guides our interactions with others, that shapes our relationships, that defines our sense of morality. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in a crowded marketplace. The air is filled with the sounds of voices, the smells of food, the sights of colors and movement. You see a man who is struggling to carry a heavy load. He is old, frail, and clearly in need of help. You have a choice. You can either walk past him, ignoring his plight, or you can stop and offer your assistance. This is justice. It is the ability to see the humanity in others, to recognize their needs, to act with kindness and compassion. It is the willingness to put aside our own interests, to prioritize the well-being of others, to do what is right, even when it is difficult. But justice is not just about how we treat others. It is also about how we treat ourselves. It is about being fair to ourselves, about recognizing our own worth, about honoring our own needs and desires. It is about setting boundaries, about standing up for ourselves, about refusing to be treated unfairly. Justice is the balance between selflessness and self-respect, the harmony between giving and receiving, the equilibrium between our own needs and the needs of others. And yet, justice is not something that we are born with. It is not something that we can take for granted. It is a value that we must cultivate, a principle that we must uphold. It requires empathy, understanding, and a sense of responsibility. It requires us to be aware of the impact of our actions, to consider the consequences of our choices, to strive for fairness in all that we do. Justice is not just a virtue. It is a way of life, a commitment to doing what is right, to making the world a better place. Finally, let us consider temperance. Temperance is not just moderation. It is not just the absence of excess. Temperance is the ability to control our desires, to resist our impulses, to find balance in all that we do. It is the discipline to say no, to set limits, to avoid the temptations that lead us astray. Temperance is the anchor that keeps us grounded, the rudder that steers us through the storms of life, the compass that guides us towards a life of harmony and peace. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in front of a table laden with food. The smells are intoxicating. The flavors are irresistible. You are hungry, and the temptation to indulge is overwhelming. But you know that you must exercise restraint. You know that you must eat in moderation, that you must take only what you need. This is temperance. It is the ability to resist the lure of excess, to find satisfaction in simplicity, to appreciate the value of self-control. It is the willingness to delay gratification, to prioritize long-term well-being over short-term pleasure, to find balance in all that we do. But temperance is not just about controlling our physical desires. It is also about controlling our emotions, our thoughts, our actions. It is about finding balance in our relationships, in our work, in our leisure. It is about avoiding extremes, about finding the middle path, about living a life of moderation and harmony. Temperance is the key to inner peace, to emotional stability, to mental clarity. It is the foundation upon which a life of virtue is built. And yet temperance is not something that we are born with. It is not something that we can achieve overnight. It is a habit that we must develop, a skill that we must practice, It requires self-awareness, self-discipline, and self-control. It requires us to be mindful of our actions, to be conscious of our choices, to be intentional in our behavior. Temperance is not just a virtue. It is a way of life, a commitment to living with balance, with harmony, with peace. And now, as we come to the end of our journey, let us take a moment to reflect on these virtues, to consider their significance, to think about how we can apply them in our own lives. Let us strive to be wise, to be courageous, to be just, to be temperate. Let us strive to live a life of virtue, a life of meaning, a life of purpose. Let us strive to be the best versions of ourselves, to make the world a better place, to leave a legacy that will endure for generations to come. For in the end, it is not the wealth we accumulate, the power we wield, or the fame we achieve that defines us. It is the virtues we embody, the principles we uphold, the values we live by. It is the wisdom we seek, the courage we display, the justice we fight for, the temperance we practice. It is the legacy of a life well lived, a life of meaning, a life of purpose. And that, my friends, is the true essence of Stoicism.